Welcome back to the channel, my friends. Warhammer Man Studios. I'm Warhammer Man, and today we're taking a look at the upcoming changes to the Middle-earth strategy battle game. This video is sponsored by CMO Games. More on that later. Middle-earth strategy battle game. The upcoming range update explained. So with the new edition of Middle-earth strategy battle game on the horizon, there's going to be some massive changes coming to the range. And in order to understand where the game and the range is going, we need to understand where it's been. So in many ways, the Middle-earth strategy battle game is what saved Games Workshop. They were going through some tough times a few years back. They were able to license the Lord of the Rings IP. Around the same time that the movies were extremely popular, they were able to produce a nice miniature range, a game to go along with it, and Games Workshop was able to claw back some of their popularity and rise back to the behemoth that they have become. But with this licensing came a lot of limitations, things like the scale of the miniatures they were able to produce, the use of the actual name Lord of the Rings, and many other challenges and limitations that made the game itself, the miniature range, and sales less than ideal. So there were licensing restrictions that involved the IP that prohibited Games Workshop from making them in the larger scale that the majority of their other games like Warhammer 40,000 and Age of Sigmar are in. So the actual miniatures themselves lack some of the size and detail, the epic scale, that makes the Warhammer range so appealing. Alongside that, Games Workshop has slowly crept towards their direct-to-customer model instead of using the middleman's friendly local game stores, sharing their profits and benefiting the customers. So we find that to this day, the majority of the Lord of the Rings miniature range is available direct only from Games Workshop. This has a couple of very clear flaws. For instance, if you were going to pick up some of these Lord of the Rings models, the majority of them you're not going to find on store shelves, which means that you're not really going to be walking into most stores and then finding the miniatures that you want. You're going to have to either request for them to order them directly from Games Workshop, which means the stores themselves are not going to get as much of a discount, so there's not nearly as much benefit for them to sell these models. And then the probability of somebody just walking into a store and making an impulse buy goes down substantially because the models that they may want or desire are not even available on store shelves. This benefits Games Workshop because that drives people to their own website where they're more likely to buy directly from Games Workshop, cutting out the middleman. And then they also don't need to make like the forward-facing packages that you typically see with retail products. They instead come in generic boxes direct from Games Workshop. And alongside other challenges we've seen over time, with the new edition of Lord of the Rings comes a lot of changes. It looks like Games Workshop is sending a bunch of the old models to the woodshed. So there is a new edition coming out, but with the new edition, a lot of the models are going to be going out of stock forever, no longer produced. And while they'll initially have some rules for the game, these rules are being categorized as legacy rules, which means that you'll be able to use them in friendly games with your friends, but there's going to be certain restrictions, lack of updates, and overall, much like what we've seen in the Warhammer range, once something goes to Legends, it basically goes there to die. So let's take a look at the new article and the 75 plus models that are going to Legacy. Middle-earth strategy battle game, the upcoming range update explained. There's an exciting new edition coming to Middle-earth soon, alongside a fearsome new box starter set, the Lord of the Rings War of Rohirrim, Battle of Edoras starter set. It's bursting with new miniatures, while the game has been reset with fully updated rules and plenty more to come. As with any new edition, the full range of miniatures and factions needs to be re-examined. This means some older miniatures are leaving the Middle-earth strategy battle game range, but all of them for good reason. Here's the design studio with more. This refresh concerns profiles rather than products. For example, we are removing the Knight of the White Tower profile from the game as no such unit ever appeared in the movies or books, and the Minas Tirith army already has a lot of profiles available. But rather than removing the entire set it was sold in from sale, Minas Tirith Commanders, we have reformed the set and will be re-releasing it without the Knight of the White Tower. We also have reviewed our factions and tried to boil them down to eras from the movies and books which we want to focus on. Therefore, a few characters such as Bandabras Took and Golfinbel, who came from the books, have moved to Legacies. Most of these miniatures will be going off sale, and some have already been unavailable for a while, but they will be receiving new Legacy profiles, so people with existing collections can continue to enjoy these miniatures in their games. Certain miniatures are being rolled into different profiles, while a few are being removed from the game. Additionally, some characters once had access to shields, horses, and so on, but we never sold a model with those options, which have now been removed from the game. Now a quick message from today's sponsor. CMO Games has been selling Games Workshop products online for over 20 years. They carry the full line of Games Workshop products, including Warhammer 40,000, Age of Sigmar, Necromunda, Blood Bowl, paint tools, and more. Almost all Games Workshop products are priced at 15% off MSRP. CMO Games takes pre-orders for most Games Workshop products released at their earliest date possible. 12:01 a.m. on Saturday, they go live. Most of these pre-order products are also priced at 15% off MSRP. CMO Games offer free shipping in the US 48 with an order of $50 or more. Their customer service is top-notch and they ship most orders within 24 hours. Visit CMOGames.com using the affiliate link in the description and let them know that you heard about CMO Games from Warhammer Man. Now, back to the video. So obviously Games Workshop has their own reason for justifying this, and you could argue that the Lord of the Rings range has become quite bloated over time. But realistically, we know Games Workshop is a for-profit company, so everything they do is going to be with a financial motive. So while they can say it's because of like gameplay or rules, I think realistically we know that they're removing a lot of these products because they're not selling. And in my opinion, part of the reason that the Lord of the Rings products are not going to sell well is because you can't just walk into a store and buy them. There's not nearly as much benefit for an actual store to pick up the direct only products because the margin's not as good for them. So they're not incentivized to sell them. They would rather sell something with a higher margin. And then also because of the packaging that they come in, it doesn't benefit the store to have a bunch of just generic boxes in there with a little sticker on the side saying what it is, because it's not as visually appealing or catching as the products with forward-facing box art, etc. And unfortunately, this isn't a trend that we've only seen in Lord of the Rings. Over the last few years, it's become very clear that Games Workshop wants to move towards this model for the most part, with even its flagship game like Warhammer 40,000, Age of Sigmar, and a lot of its other games as well. As we see more and more of these products being offered direct only, lacking the visually appealing box art and the discounts and profit margin that retail stores are going to find. So if we do continue down this path going forward into the future, I think it's becoming more and more likely that eventually we'll see these friendly local game stores choosing not to carry these direct only products because they're obviously much less incentivized to, and Games Workshop driving more and more of its sales to the direct only website, cutting out the middleman, putting more of the profits in their own pockets, and with less profit incentive going to the actual friendly local game stores, more and more of them will shift away from Games Workshop products or close down altogether. Which, if you enjoy your local community, supporting your local store, playing with your friends in a public place, this is definitely a bad thing. So let's take a quick look at some of these models that are going away. There's over 75 different kits that are being removed from the range and going to legacies. So first we have the Fallen Realms, and we can see there are quite a few of these models going away. Next we have Mordor, and again, quite a few of these are going to be going away as well. And then once again for Isengard, we got a handful of them going away. I have noticed that the majority of these are character models. And then we got a handful of models from Gondor going away. A decent amount from the Misty Mountains range going away. And then also the Elven Kingdoms as well. A handful of the Rohan models. A handful of the Dwarven Hold models. And then a couple from the Kingdoms of Men and the Free Guild Peoples. So keep in mind that these models are now on a last chance to buy and will be available while stocks last. And then again, Games Workshop directing you to warhammer.com to sell direct to customers. And it is worth note too that this announcement comes on the back of the new edition. And then also, as Games Workshop noted in this article, a lot of those models have been out of stock or unavailable for quite some time. So even if suddenly you do get this message and you want to pick them up, the majority of these models are no longer available, so you wouldn't be able to if you tried. So while I think overall the new edition of Middle-earth Strategy Battle Game is cool, and I think people are excited for it, as this was one of Games Workshop's longest running games, arguably one of their best rule sets, I think this is a pretty clear insight into what's coming from Games Workshop. We've seen over time that they're selling more and more items direct to customers, offering these models direct only, cutting out the individual art and packaging on these box sets, disincentivizing stores to keep them on their shelves. And I think over time, we're going to see this trend accelerate as Games Workshop intends to cut out the middleman, cut out the friendly local game store, and sell direct to customers as much as possible. We've seen other parts of this trend accelerating with the 2-week pre-order period, limited allocations going to stores for popular products. And I think over time, we're going to see less and less of the friendly local game stores carrying or selling Games Workshop products, and more of the sales driven directly to Games Workshop. So let me know what you think of the upcoming changes to the Middle-earth Strategy Battle Game. You think it's good that they're trimming down the range, making room for some new stuff to come out? Do you think it's a bad thing when you walk into a friendly local game store and they do carry one of Games Workshop's games? They have a very limited amount of models on the shelves. And even if they do offer a discount, there's very little discount purchasing from the game store relative to just buying them at full price online. And what does this mean for the future of Warhammer? Always like to hear back from you guys in the comments, and as always, special thanks to CMO Games for sponsoring the channel. Check out the link in the description to save 15% on most Games Workshop products. That's it for today. Warhammer Man Studios, I'm Warhammer Man, and I can see where this is going, and honestly, I don't like it for Games Workshop, and I'm out of here.